Have you ever fallen in love with a majestic creature? Maybe that's your husband or wife, and that's beautiful. But what about an animal, a bird? Today, I introduce to you the majestic and beautiful hummingbird. I have been in love with the hummingbird from childhood when we would vacation in the mountains and rent a cabin, hang the hummingbird feeder to watch the hummingbirds, oblivious as a child that it was their summer migration as they flitted to and fro, chirping. That love story continues to this day, where last year I discovered the annual Hummingbird Festival in New Mexico, where they display how hummingbirds are captured and then measured and weighed and then banded. And then they let the hummingbirds go. And that band allows them to track the health of the hummingbirds and all their migration patterns across all the species of hummingbirds, from the miniature calliope to the largest majestic, still small. They come in all shapes and sizes. Perhaps you've heard of the rufous, the lucifer, the allens or the annas, the broad-billed, the broad-tailed, or the ruby-throated, the blue-throated, the violet-capped, the white-eared. Even the names of these species sound so inviting. Bird studiers estimate there may be up to 366 different species of hummingbirds. During the summertime, the hummingbirds can be seen migrating across Texas, New Mexico, Colorado. In fact, every state in the contiguous USA can see hummingbirds migrating. Generally speaking, in the spring migration, the hummingbirds will migrate north for the spring and summer breeding season, usually late January through May. And then in the fall migration, they will migrate south for the winter, the peak of that generally in July, August, depending on where you are. You see, the months that you would see them migrating depends on your location and their species. There are some species in California and the upper Pacific coast where those hummingbirds do not migrate. So Shay, Sarah, you may have some special hummingbirds there. However, hummingbirds are only located in the Western Hemisphere. So for our member Somu in Ireland, no hummingbirds there. Interestingly, the ancient Mexican name for hummingbird translates as rays of the sun, and the Creole word translates as murmurs. And in Portuguese, flower kissers. Hummers are the only birds that can hover or move backwards, which is why they love the plants that have the dangling flowers. And while their figure-8 wing motion is quite unique, one thing they cannot do is soar on motionless wings like most other birds. If you would like to attract these birds during their migration, be sure to plant some plants that they like to feed on or hang a hummingbird feeder. But remember to change the food every 3 to 5 days. Otherwise, our Texas heat could turn that into alcohol, and we don't want to get our hummingbirds drunk, do we? During migration, the hummingbirds must eat every 2 to 3 hours because they will consume up to or more than 1,200 calories in a day. To put this into perspective, a human would need to eat 155,000 calories, 155,000 calories in a day to burn at the same rate these hummingbirds are burning. If you'd like to show stewardship for these hummingbirds while they are migrating and provide some plants for them to feed on, you could try planting beard tongues, century plants, Indian paintbrush, trumpet vines, buckeye, columbine, loco weed, morning glory, honeysuckle, Indian pink, bee balm, ocotillo, fuchsia flowers, thistles, currants, or gila plants. So a lot of variety there, depending on where you are located and what may grow best. The ruby-throated hummingbird beats its wings at 200 beats per second during courtship, while the Allen courtship dive can reach speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. Females occasionally will choose a male of a different species to mate with, resulting in a hybrid hummingbird. And typically, the male does his part in courtship and then goes back to bachelor status, while the female raises the eggs on her own. There are some exceptions, though. On average, hummingbirds will have 2 eggs at a time, about the size of a jelly bean, and they take about 15 to 22 days to hatch. Upon the next migration season, the young birds will actually migrate without the assistance of their mothers. Now, exactly how hummingbirds know their migration pattern, their route, and remember how to get there, science still doesn't know. As to their size, on average, a hummingbird is about 3.5 inches long, and they weigh just over the weight of a penny. As you may find with other animal species, the men are more flashy, while the women and children are more drab. The resting heart rate is about 500 beats per second for a hummingbird, but when they're excited, it can double that. For comparison, a human's average resting heart rate is about 60 to 100 beats per second. Something I learned this year at the Hummingbird Festival is that hummingbirds can put themselves into torpor. Other species, like trout fish, also can go into torpor. It's like hibernation, but they're not fully asleep. They slow their heart rate down to save metabolic expenditure. And it's as if they were asleep or frozen until they come out of torpor. So a hummingbird may choose to do this at night to rest, but they must carefully weigh the cost because if a predator catches them in torpor, they have little chance of surviving. There's so much more I could tell you about this beautiful, majestic species of bird, but instead I will leave you with a challenge. Watch out for the hummers. Plant some flowers for them. Hang a hummingbird feeder. Provide that much needed sustenance they desire during migration. And you may just find yourself the recipient of a graceful, glorious presence of hummingbirds in your yard. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Wonderful, Jen. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I love what you were talking about, the names of the birds. It reminded me of this silly image. I guess maybe it's because I'm becoming, oh, I guess I can't paste it. I will share it here in a second. I guess because I'm getting older, I'm becoming a bird